Hey, yo, what's up, YouTube, man? It's your boy, Action Jackson. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Washington Commanders versus the Dallas Cowboys. But I'm also going to be talking about the how was the years with Mike McCarthy. Could we possibly move on from Mike McCarthy? If we do move on from Mike McCarthy, I don't want another retread. So I will talk about what I mean by that after the intro. So before we hop into the video, I'd appreciate if you guys would like the video, subscribe if you're new, comment, and share my video with anyone who you think will enjoy my content, man. So, talking about this game on Sunday, the Washington Commanders, it has been announced they will be playing their starters because they're trying to remain the 6th seed. And if they do remain the 6th seed, they will be playing against the LA Rams on either Saturday or Sunday. If they lose, they will play Philadelphia Eagles again. And, you know, I think if you're Washington, it's going to be very tough because you're a team that cannot cover very well. I know they are missing Marshawn Lattimore, and if Marshawn Lattimore is good to play in the playoff game, will he be even semi-healthy for him to go and possibly play against, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp? Because I do think the Commanders will win. For the Dallas Cowboys, I think they are going to play hard. I think this is going to be a good game because I think the Dallas Cowboys, it can go one of two ways. They are going to play Trey Lance significant snaps, and that is because the Dallas Cowboys can avoid paying Cooper Rush $500,000 for an incentive in his contract. So, if the Dallas Cowboys being cheap as they are, there was a rumor coming out that Trey Lance is probably going to play significant snaps. And I believe it is true that he is going to play significant snaps because I do see the, but the Dallas Cowboys, they activated Will Greer to be a quarterback and activate him onto the active roster. And they made that move earlier today. So I can see that Dallas Cowboys deactivate Cooper Rush. They bring in Trey Lance, which is just, again, another funny style-like move from the Dallas Cowboys because you knew your season was over once Dak Prescott was diagnosed when he tore his hamstring off the bone. And, his season was done. That's when you should have put in Trey Lance. So that's why you could have seen Trey Lance, what he could have done, because he's a free agent going into next year. And if he showed you any promise or if he learned from his mistakes from the preseason, maybe you resign him, you keep him as your quarterback too, and then if you bring in another coach that I'm going to talk about, maybe he can develop him. And if Dak Prescott's contract is up and we want to move on from Dak Prescott, we can possibly keep Trey Lance if that's what the Dallas Cowboys want to do in the next 3 years. But with a Dallas Cowboys win, that would put them around, anywhere from 14 to 16. With a loss and an Indianapolis Colts win and a San Francisco 49ers win, you can end up at the 11th pick, and that's the highest you want to be. So your options are, if you lose, you maybe get Luther Burden. You for sure get Mecca Ibuka. You can get maybe Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell if you so choose to take an offensive line. You got Chevelle, ECU corner, because we do need an outside corner. I already said Genty. Maybe Abdul Carter. He's not falling that low again. I truly believe he will not get past 7 or 6 with the Carolina Panthers and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't see him leaving that top 8, in my opinion. But as everyone says in this community that does great content creation on the draft, some of these teams suck at drafting. So, like what Vosh Lombardi says, some of these teams, they suck at drafting, and they do. So if Abdul Carter's sitting at 11, you run up that card, and regardless who's on the board, if it's Genty or Carter, who am I taking? I'll take Carter because I would have, if I was making a big board, Abdul Carter would be on my big board because I believe Abdul Carter is a top 4 player in this draft, excluding quarterbacks, right? But anyway, you can even include quarterbacks. I still do believe that Abdul Carter is a damn good edge rusher. So, and then also, so with the win, Genty, Emeka, Luther Burden, Kelvin Banks, Chevelle, ECU corner, those are your Those are names that you're Malachi Starks for sure. Those are names that you're looking at with a loss. With a loss and an Indianapolis Colts and San Francisco 49ers win. With a loss, I mean with a win, if you do win, I don't see you winning, but if you do win, think about Kelvin Banks. If he makes it there, I don't think he makes it past Chicago. But think about Emeka Egbuka. Think about Chevelle if he's available. Think about Kenneth Grant. Think about James Pierce. Think about some of those guys, right? Maybe Michael Williams. Think about Jalen Walker. Think about some of those dudes at anywhere from 14 to 16 if you do choose to win on Sunday, right? So those are your options. I would rather much lose and have the Colts and the Niners win for us to get a possible generational type of player or a player that can really help out this team. With a win, you still can get a player that can help you, get a more steady player, and I believe that the Dallas Cowboys do a better job drafting when they do have a steady player, but I don't think the Dallas Cowboys will win on Sunday regardless of anything, right? And with the Colts, they play the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I do think it's feasible that they do win on Sunday. And the 49ers, they do play the Cardinals, and I do think they have a really good shot if the 49ers play like any way they play like how they did on Monday night, but they close it out against the Cardinals on Sunday. I do think that the 49ers can win that game. So that's enough draft talk for right now. Now we're going to be talking about the duration in the 5 years of Mike McCarthy. I'm going to break it down for the 3 years in which he was just a head coach, and then I'm going to break down the last 2 years of his contract in which he was a play caller. The first 3 years of his contract, of his coaching career, in which he was just a head coach from 2020, 2021, 2022, he was a hell of a head coach. He was definitely a significant upgrade, and what he did in 5 years, he did way better than what Jason Garrett had did in 10. I like the way in which that we were able to stay in games without necessarily having our best players around playing. Like you look at 2021 and Dak Prescott, when he went down and wasn't available to play on Halloween in October of 2021, and Cooper Rush came in and won that game on Sunday night. And then you also look about it in the second year in 2022 when Dak Prescott went out and he was out for 6 games. Cooper Rush comes in, he's 5-1 as a starter. He's 5-1 as a starter, does a really good job. We're at the edge of our seat after every win and after every loss. He did a really good job. We were able to stay afloat. We were able to survive with Ty Nsekhe at left tackle when Tyron Smith couldn't go in that in that New England Patriots game. That was a hell of a game in 2021, right? So you think about those games and you think about those situations. You think about some games in which that we didn't have Dak Prescott. We didn't have Zach Martin opening night 2021 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of COVID. And then, again, Tyron Smith always missing those 5 to 6 games that he would miss, that we were able to stay afloat in games. I was really appreciative of that because with Garrett, we didn't get that. When Tyron Smith was out, we got the Chaz Green, not New Orleans game, but the Atlanta Falcons game. There was plenty of games that when we didn't have Tyron Smith, you can definitely see when the Dallas Cowboys would miss somebody. When Sean Lee would miss some games, you would see that our defense was terrible. We wouldn't have a Sean Lee. But I really like what Mike McCarthy was able to do. I like what Mike McCarthy was able to do on short weeks, having this team ready to play from Sunday to Thursday. But from Sunday to Sunday, that was very skeptical. I really loved how, again, I was born in 2002. I never experienced any sort of winning with this Dallas Cowboys team. Sad to say, sad as hell, but it doesn't matter in my opinion. Whatever. I love this team, regardless whether if I was doing YouTube or not. The Dallas Cowboys, the past from 2021 to 2023 was the best years of my life watching the Dallas Cowboys play regular season football. I put it past, Dan Quinn, Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy. Those were some of my best years watching Dallas Cowboys. That was when a lot of people grew a lot in this community over the past 3 years because of the Dallas Cowboys winning football games. It does great for everybody when the Dallas Cowboys are winning games. But, of course, now did we get those playoff success like we wanted to out of Coach McCarthy? No, we did not. It sucks that we didn't. There's a lot of, teams, we weren't, players weren't prepared. Players didn't live up to their position value, not only, forget position value, they didn't live up to their name, they didn't live up to their contracts, they didn't stay consistent throughout the entirety of the year. You know, from offense, defense, special teams, we were just very inconsistent of a football team in the postseason, and we were ill-prepared in those games, and I just didn't like it, and that's what ultimately is going to cost Mike McCarthy. But the last 2 years of Mike McCarthy calling the plays, and if we're just assessing that right now, you had Dak Prescott play at his peak of his powers last year. He was a second-team All-Pro quarterback. He was easily a top-5 quarterback last year, top-8, top-6 quarterback last year. Whether people like Dak Prescott or not, respect him or not, Dak Prescott had a hell of a year last year. Numbers showed it. That was his best year to date, and that was year 9, year 8 in his career. And he was able to win MVP with one-star wide receiver, non-running game, non-being able to stop the run, having a really good tight end, really young, inexperienced tight end. You were able to win MVP, or not win MVP, but you were second in MVP behind Lamar Jackson with less talented players on the offensive side of the football, right? But he was able to do that and almost win MVP with him winning on routes with less motion. You didn't run a whole lot of motion on curls, hitches, swing routes, check down routes. Just really slants, hitches, and curls. You were able to win MVP off of that. I was really appreciative of what Mike McCarthy was able to do. And another thing about his play calling that we did not like is the inconsistency from week to week. We didn't like how we'll look like Superman and we'll run motion and we would run the here we go offense versus our division opponents and teams that we feel like we were better than. What I didn't like was the inconsistencies in the play calling when we would go play in big games versus whether it was the Philadelphia Eagles at the Link in 2023, whether it was the 49ers, whether it was the Arizona Cardinals, whether it was the Buffalo Bills, whether it was the Miami Dolphins. You got a little bit funky at the end against the Detroit Lions. I did not like that. And then again, looking very slow in the first 5 or 6 weeks between this season and last season, you looked very, very bad. And then you needed Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb to pull you up by your bootstraps and save your job. That's what I didn't like from Mike McCarthy. Now, speaking about Mike McCarthy, he more than likely, I do believe that he does lose his job. The Dallas Cowboys have until January 14th to make that decision. Do I want him to remain a Dallas? Well, do I think he remains a Dallas Cowboy? No, I do not think that he remains a Dallas Cowboy because I felt that if he was going to get some sort of an extension, he should have gotten it in the past 3 years when he went 3 straight 12-5 seasons. I felt like he probably should have remained, or you should have extended his job either at the end of 2023 or for sure at the end of 2022. And you don't put such a winning head coach like what you had here, and he brought you more success on your team. The last person to bring as much success as he did during the regular season has been Jimmy Johnson. And you have him play on a 1-year deal. There's a bunch of controversy. You don't sign anybody in free agency. You really just let this team sink. You let it rebuild, and you're not upfront with the team about it, and upfront with your staff and coaching staff about it. But it is what it is on that front. Mike McCarthy and his team and these players had plenty of chances to make an NFC Championship appearance, to make a Super Bowl appearance. I felt that they had the teams to do it. Whether we want to cape for quarterback, whether we want to cape for coaches and players or not, you had talent. You had enough talent, in my opinion, to at least make it to NFC Championship game. At least one, right? And the fact that you didn't do it, it puts you right into the fault of, Bill Parcells, Wade Phillips, Jason Garrett, never been able to take this team to the NFC Championship game with talented teams. So my thing is this. If you're bringing in a Ron Rivera, if you're bringing in a Mike Vrabel, if you're bringing in any retread, any former head coach in this league, and you're bringing him in to be a head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, just bring back Mike McCarthy, because at least the players know who he is, know what they bring. We know what we're going to get out of Mike McCarthy. We know that with a healthy roster and a competent roster, we will make the playoffs. So if you want to go that route, stick on that route and let's stay there for at least another year or two, however long you want to keep Mike McCarthy around for. If you're going to move on from Mike McCarthy, you need to get better than Mike McCarthy, meaning I want an offensive play calling head coach that can come in and that can unlock Dak Prescott. I want a Ben Johnson. Does Ben Johnson come to Dallas? I don't think so. But if you look at the situation and what he's doing right now in Detroit, you look over in Dallas, he isn't too far apart from offensively from what he can do in Detroit. Number one, Detroit gets a lot of credit for their skill positions, but what they're not being talked about enough, or if they do talk about it, they don't talk about it enough, an offensive lineman. The offensive line does a hell of a job. Frank Ragnow, Kevin Zeitler, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell, and their left guard. I think from Boston College, I want to say Matt. I forgot Hennessy, or I forgot his name. They have a damn good left guard as well. They have a really good front five, and that's what makes that thing go. You got Tyler Smith, Pro Bowler, All Pro. BB at center. Terrence Steele, who's fixable. He's like your Taylor Decker of your offensive line. You got Tyler Guyton, who's a ball of clay that you can figure out. And you got TJ Bass, you got Brock Hoffman, you got things you can figure out. You got Sam Laporta, hell of a better. He's head and shoulders better than Jake Ferguson, but I believe Jake Ferguson is a really good tight end, and we saw that last year. CeeDee Lamb is a way better receiver than Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jameson Williams is the best. It will be the second best wide receiver than the Dallas Cowboys right now if he was to play. You got Tim Patrick. You got David Montgomery. You got Jahmyr Gibbs. I think if you look at it from Ben Johnson's perspective, I have a quarterback that's better than Jared Goff. Is Jared Goff better than Dak Prescott this year? Correct. Yes, he is. But last year, he was not. I know they made it to the NFC Championship. They won 2 playoff games with them. You want to say, well, at least he made it to the Super Bowl. Well, he lost in the Super Bowl. He wasn't able to put up enough points in the Super Bowl. He's never won an MVP, never won Offensive Player of the Year, never won Rookie of the Year. Jared Goff is a really good quarterback, but he's not better than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott's weaknesses are, the 49ers. The 49ers and anybody that he plays, that Shanahan tree. We already know Jared Goff's weaknesses is cold weather and great defenses. Still, it's pressure, great defenses, and cold weather is still what gets Jared Goff. Dak Prescott don't have those issues. But again, if you want to crown Jared Goff is better than Dak, I'm not gonna argue with you. But okay, I think if you're Ben Johnson, you're looking at it. Okay, I get a really good quarterback in Dak Prescott, either same tier of Jared Goff or better, whatever you want to do, less, whatever, less than, better than, equal to, whatever. I have a better wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb than I would Amon-Ra. I have to figure out my wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3 spot. If you feel comfortable with Jalen Tolbert, that's fine. I'm not. I would bring in a guy like Stephon Diggs or Keenan Allen as your wide receiver 3. I have some other names as well, but I'll talk about that in 2 months from now when we talk about free agency. You can definitely get a better running back in this draft, whether it's Scotabo, whether it's Omarion Hampton, whether it's Caleb Johnson, whether it's Ashton Genty. Also, another thing I'd like to talk about with that as well is that you have a hell of a defensive player in Micah Parsons. You're going to have Trevon Diggs, but you still need to draft another corner because Trevon Diggs is probably going to be out the door pretty soon. And then you got DaRon Bland, and you got some really great pieces to this defense that you can put together. So if you're Ben Johnson, you're looking at it from a roster standpoint, I like it. The only thing that doesn't really make this thing a whole lot attractive is that they're not really going to want to aggressively build this team the right way. Talk about, we do the draft, we do that pretty well. We don't do it well enough. As much as we are a draft intensive team, we don't do well enough in the draft, in my opinion, for us to really crown ourselves a top or a really good drafting team. Like we put ourselves up with Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and all them other teams. We do really good drafting as well, like I said, but we crown this team as one of the best drafting teams in the league. Some people like to say they're the best drafting team in the league. I don't think so, but they're decent, but they have to be way better, right? Considering that you don't do anything in free agency, you have to be a hell of a lot better when you draft, correct? So, outside of, Jerry Jones being in your front office, being your owner, being your GM, having weekly radio hosts talking about who's going to play, who's not going to play, how you're going to win, why you're going to win, all the other things, talking like he's a coach or a GM, technically he is, but he hasn't been able to do anything in the past 30 years or even construct a roster better enough to make it to the, NFC Championship game. He hasn't been able to do that, right? So really right now, to wrap up this video, because that's about it, right? With the win and, a San Francisco win and Indianapolis win, you're probably more than likely going to end up thinking about drafting Malachi Starks, Kelvin Bakes if he's available, Will Campbell, Chevelle, ECU corner, Emeka Ibuka if he's available. And then you got, Malachi Starks, I talked about him already, James Pierce. Those are names you have to get used to. If you lose, Niners win, Colts win, think about Emeka, think about Luther, think about Ashton Jeanty if he's available. I know the reason why I say Ashton Jeanty, because if nobody trades up for him, I think the only team who's capable of drafting of drafting a running back, and it will make sense, will be the Vegas Raiders. Again, if nobody trades up in front of you to take Jeanty, it will make sense for the Vegas Raiders to select him. Mike McCarthy's 5 years of his head coach, 3 years of really great football, 2 years of really bad football. You didn't get it done in the postseason. That's something that we had a problem with Garrett as well. Didn't get it done. And if you're going to hire another retread, so another former head coach, just keep Mike McCarthy, because at least everyone here knows what Mike McCarthy is made of. If you are going to move on from Mike McCarthy, it cannot be a retread. It has to be somebody, a new blood, somebody that we haven't seen before, somebody that's possibly going to be the first time head coaching. No, not Jason Witten, and somebody else. So that's about it for the video. Hope you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye.